Hello, my friends, and welcome back to SWT English Learning. I'm so glad you're here today because we have something truly exciting for you. In this episode, we are going to learn English in a fun and natural way through a story. Stories are powerful. They make you imagine. They make you feel. And most importantly, they help you remember new English words much more easily. But don't worry, we're not going to read a long book or difficult text. I've prepared a special simplified version of a classic adventure tale. This means you can enjoy the excitement of the story while practicing your English step by step. The sentences will be short, clear, and easy to follow. You can listen, repeat, and even pause whenever you need. Today's story is called Treasure Island. It's one of the most famous pirate adventures in the world, full of danger, secrets, and treasure maps. I'll tell the story slowly, and after that, we'll practice important vocabulary together. So stay with me until the end. You'll not only enjoy the adventure, but also improve your English speaking and listening skills. All right, are you ready to begin? Let's set sail.
A long time ago, near the sea, there was a small village. In this village, there was an old inn, a kind of small hotel called the Admiral Benbow. Life in the inn was calm and simple. Travelers came and went, but nothing very exciting ever happened there. Living in the inn was a young boy named Jim Hawkins. Jim lived with his mother and father. His life was quiet, just helping at the inn and watching the world outside. But one day, something unusual happened. Something that would change Jim's life forever. An old sailor arrived at the inn. He was tall, strong, and looked very rough. His clothes were dirty, his skin was weathered by the sea, and across his face was a long scar. He looked like a man who had lived through many dangerous adventures. This man's name was Billy Bones. He didn't talk much. He didn't smile. He often sat in the corner, drinking rum and singing old pirate songs in a loud, broken voice. The songs frightened the guests who stayed at the inn. Every morning, Billy walked slowly up the hill near the coast. In his hand, he carried a small telescope. He would stand there for a long time, looking out at the sea, scanning the waves as if he was waiting for someone or hiding from someone. Billy Bones was always nervous. He jumped when the door opened. He looked around quickly whenever strangers came in. Jim could see the fear in his eyes, even though Billy tried to look strong. One evening, Billy called Jim close to him. He spoke in a low, serious voice. "Boy," he said, "I'll pay you a silver coin every month. You must watch the road for a man with one leg. If you ever see such a man, you must tell me right away." Jim didn't understand why Billy Bones was so afraid of this one-legged man. But the coin was real, and Jim agreed. From that day on, he kept his eyes open, though he didn't know what danger might come.
That's the beginning of our adventure. Already you can feel the mystery, right? Who is this one-legged man? Why is Billy Bones hiding? And what secret is he carrying with him? In the next part, the story takes a darker turn. A strange visitor will arrive at the inn, and Jim's quiet life will suddenly explode into danger. Stay with me, because in part 2, you'll discover how everything begins to change. Welcome back, my friends, to SWT English Learning. In part 1 of our story, we met young Jim Hawkins, his quiet life at the inn, and the mysterious old sailor, Billy Bones. We learned that Billy was hiding from someone, a man with one leg. But what happens next is even more frightening. Let's dive in. One cold evening, a new visitor came to the inn. He was blind, but his movements were sharp and quick. His name was Pew. Even though he could not see, he seemed to know exactly where he was going. His face was hard and cruel. Pew called for Billy Bones. His voice was cold, and it sent shivers down Jim's back. When Billy appeared, Pew placed something in his hand. It was a small round piece of paper, black in the middle. Sailors had a name for this. It was called the black spot. Among pirates, this was a terrible sign. It meant judgment, danger, and often death. The moment Billy looked at it, his face went pale. His hands shook. He tried to stand tall, but fear was stronger than him. Only minutes later, he fell to the floor. His heart had stopped. The great sailor, Billy Bones, was dead. Jim and his mother were shocked. They needed to pay the bills of the inn, and Billy owed them money. They carefully opened Billy's old sea chest, hoping to find enough coins. Inside, they discovered gold and silver from many lands. But hidden at the bottom, they found something far more valuable: a map. This map showed the location of a great treasure. It was said to belong to Captain Flint, one of the most feared pirates in history. The map was old, with strange drawings of islands, caves, and red crosses. Jim realized that this piece of paper could change his life forever. Jim didn't keep the map for himself. Instead, he showed it to two trusted men in the village: Dr. Livesey, a wise and kind doctor, and Squire Trelawney, a wealthy landowner. Both men were amazed. "We must organize a voyage," said Squire Trelawney. "We'll sail across the ocean and find Captain Flint's treasure." Dr. Livesey agreed, but warned, "This will be dangerous. We must choose our crew carefully." Together, the three of them planned an expedition. They would need a strong ship, a brave captain, and a loyal crew. Jim, still only a boy, was invited to join the adventure as a cabin boy. He could hardly believe his luck. His quiet life was over. Ahead of him lay the sea, the unknown, and the promise of treasure. Before long, Squire Trelawney found a ship, a fine vessel named the Hispaniola. She was large, fast, and ready for the long voyage. To lead the ship, they hired Captain Smollett, a strict but fair man who believed in rules and discipline. Jim stepped on board with wide eyes. The smell of the sea, the tall sails, the ropes, and the sound of the waves against the hull, it was all new to him. He felt proud to be part of such a great adventure. Among the crew was a friendly man with only one leg. He moved quickly with his crutch, laughed easily, and told stories that made everyone smile. His name was Long John Silver. Silver seemed kind and full of cheer. He even had a parrot on his shoulder that squawked, "Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8!" The crew loved him. Jim admired him. But as we will soon learn, Silver's smile hid dangerous secrets. And that, my friends, is the end of part 2. We've moved from the quiet little inn to the wide ocean. The adventure has truly begun. But something feels wrong, doesn't it? Can Jim really trust all of the crew? And who is Long John Silver really? In part 3, we'll uncover the truth. Secrets will be revealed, and danger will come closer than ever. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to SWT English Learning. In part 2, we saw Jim and his friends prepare for the great voyage. They had a ship, the Hispaniola, a strong captain, and a cheerful cook named Long John Silver. Everything seemed perfect, but as you know, appearances can be deceiving. Let's continue our adventure. One afternoon, the ship sailed smoothly under the bright sun. Jim, feeling tired and hungry, climbed into an apple barrel to grab a quick snack. The barrel was large and dark inside, and Jim decided to rest there for a while. Suddenly, voices came near. Jim froze. He recognized the voice of Long John Silver. At first, Silver spoke in his usual friendly tone, but soon Jim realized this was no ordinary conversation. Silver was whispering with several sailors. Their words made Jim's blood run cold. They were planning a mutiny. Silver told the men to wait until the treasure was found. Then, when the time was right, they would attack, take over the ship, and kill anyone who stood in their way.
Jim's heart raced. He finally understood why Billy Bones had been so afraid. The one-legged man he had warned about, it was Silver. When the pirates walked away, Jim slipped quietly out of the barrel. His hands were shaking, but he knew what he had to do. He ran straight to Captain Smollett, Dr. Livesey, and Squire Trelawney. Breathlessly, he told them everything he had heard. The captain's face grew serious. "So half the crew are traitors," he said. "We'll need to be clever. If they strike first, we're finished. But if we stay alert, we may still have a chance." From that moment, the honest men on the Hispaniola lived with a heavy secret. They worked side by side with the pirates, hiding their fear, waiting for the right moment. The ship felt like a trap, with danger on every corner.
Days later, after weeks at sea, someone cried out from the mast, "Land ho!" On the horizon lay a green island covered with trees, hills, and rocky cliffs. It looked calm, but Jim's heart told him it was a place of danger. This was Treasure Island. Captain Smollett gave orders. Some of the crew prepared to go ashore. Jim, curious and restless, joined them. As the boat touched the sand, Jim felt the adventure become real. The air smelled of salt and wild plants. Birds screamed in the distance. The forest looked dark and secretive. While walking through the woods, Jim suddenly heard a strange noise. Out from the trees stepped a man with wild hair, sunburned skin, and ragged clothes. His eyes were bright, but a little crazy. "My name's Ben Gunn," the man said. "I've been stranded here for 3 years.
Ben explained that he had once been part of a pirate crew, but they had abandoned him on the island. He had survived by eating berries and goats. His voice was desperate, but his smile was hopeful. Then he leaned closer to Jim and whispered, "I know about Flint's treasure. I've already found it, and I've hidden it safely. Help me get off this island, and I'll help you." Jim didn't know if he could trust Ben, but he felt the man's honesty, and deep inside he sensed this strange meeting would change everything. And that's the end of part 3. Jim now knows the pirate's terrible secret, and he's met a mysterious man who may be the key to the treasure. But can Ben Gunn be trusted? And how will the fight against Silver and his men unfold? In Part 4, we'll reach the thrilling conclusion. Battles will be fought, choices will be made, and the real treasure will finally be revealed. Don't miss it.
Welcome back, my friends, to SWT English Learning. In Part 3, Jim discovered the pirates' secret plan and met the strange man Ben Gunn, who claimed to know where the treasure was hidden. Now it's time to see how the adventure ends. Back on the island, Captain Smollett, Dr. Livesey, and Squire Trelawney knew they were in danger. The pirates, led by Long John Silver, were growing impatient. They wanted the treasure map. To protect themselves, the honest men moved into an old wooden house on the island, a strong blockhouse where they could defend against attack. It didn't take long. The pirates came, shouting and firing their guns. The air was filled with smoke and the sound of steel clashing. Jim and his friends fought bravely. Though outnumbered, they held their ground. The blockhouse stood strong. Silver tried to act clever. Sometimes he talked like a friend, pretending to switch sides. But nobody trusted him anymore. His words were smooth, but his eyes were sharp with greed. In the middle of all this danger, Jim made a bold decision. He slipped away from the group and found a small round boat on the shore. Quietly, he pushed it into the water and rowed toward the Hispaniola. On board, two pirates were fighting each other, drunk and angry. Jim hid until one pirate killed the other. Then, with courage he didn't know he had, Jim faced the last pirate in a deadly struggle. At last, Jim won. Exhausted but proud, he tied up the ship and sailed it to safety. When Jim returned to the blockhouse, his friends were shocked but impressed. He was no longer just a boy. He had proved his bravery. Finally, the pirates got hold of the treasure map. Excited, they marched to the marked spot, shovels in hand. They dug quickly, sweating and shouting. But when the earth opened, there was nothing inside. The treasure was gone. Silver stared in disbelief. The pirates roared with anger. They had been tricked. At that moment, Jim learned the truth. Ben Gunn had already found Captain Flint's treasure years earlier and had hidden it in a secret cave. The map was useless now. The pirates grew weaker and fewer. Some ran into the forest and were never seen again. Others surrendered. In the end, Jim and his loyal friends had won. They followed Ben Gunn to the hidden cave, and there it was, the real treasure. Piles of gold, silver, jewels, and coins from distant lands. More wealth than they had ever dreamed. Trip by trip, they carried the treasure back to the Hispaniola. Their hearts were full of relief and pride. But Long John Silver was not done. One night he slipped away quietly, carrying a small bag of treasure. He vanished into the darkness, never to be seen again. At last, the ship sailed back to England. The journey had changed them all. They were richer, yes, but Jim especially had grown wiser. He had faced fear, learned about courage, and understood the value of friendship and loyalty. The adventure was over, but the lessons stayed with him forever. And that, my friends, is the story of Treasure Island, told for you here on SWT English Learning. Through this story, you've practiced listening, learned new words, and followed an exciting adventure step by step. Remember, you don't just study English, you live it. The more you listen, repeat, and imagine, the stronger your English will become. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to SWT English Learning. Leave a comment below and tell me, what was your favorite part of this story? Was it Jim's bravery, Ben Gunn's secret, or Silver's tricks? I'd love to hear from you. Stay curious, stay motivated, and keep practicing. Another great English learning adventure is coming soon. Until then, this is SWT English Learning, wishing you success on your journey. Bye for now.